Coach Tennille here, and what a blessing it is to have another wonderful, fantastico day. And I've been trying to get an opportunity to read more because we're coming to the end of this. I believe this is page 75 out of 162 pages. And this is part 6 of paranormal parasites. And let me see. Okay, there we go. Sorry, guys. Of paranormal parasites, and this we're talking about soul eaters. This is chapter 9 in the book, and he really doesn't do chapters. Like most of the people that I read, I think they're so overwhelmed by the amount of knowledge that they're not into really. Oh God, what would that be called? They're not really into the formatting. Let's just get the shit out, So, let's go. Let's rock. Hopefully everybody can hear me. If you fly on by, please let me know. I'm going to turn off this air conditioning because I'm sitting right by it. Oh, it is, but you know what? Let's say a prayer for getting through the transition, I think it was. People said it was happening. I celebrated my birthday last week, and I celebrated by investing in another business. So, which is absolutely awesome. I'm excited about it. But gosh, oh my God, I have never experienced so many glitches. Like when I was on the streets and when I was elevated, there were hecka glitches. Like people would be walking like an NPR. I guess if that's how you say it in one of those role-playing games, right? They would be walking like that, as if they were stuck in the corner. There's this TikTok about a woman or not about a woman, but with a woman who's imitating that, and she runs into it. She does it perfection. She copies it, and she runs right into her refrigerator. And the cool thing was, oh my God, I love creativity. The cool thing is that she slid. Like when you would, like, if let's say you did Zelda and you went into the saloon or bar, or the shopkeepers, right? And you got somebody around or whatever, and they're stuck in a corner, right? And so what ends up having to do, they have to go that line that the wall is on. They have to walk that. But while they're walking it, they're still walking. And they're trying to get to an opening and they'll proceed. And she did that verbatim. It was just like, yeah, cool beans. So yeah, a lot of glitches. A lot. So and I'll say this, I'm not going to keep you guys too long. We're going to get into the reading because I've been missing it. When you hear astrologers, seers, tarot readers say, hey, you got people coming back. It's not necessarily that you gotta catch a lot of us aren't astrologists. I'm not. But I feel vibrations to my core as if I'm really going through it. So that, psychic attacks are projections of other people's thoughts about you. If you know what I mean, that's one way, and then the other ways is rituals, and the other ways is just throwing all negativity at you verbally, with a team or whatever, or making an effigy of you and then doing it. I've had it all done. I had people trying to hang me, all that stuff. But feeling these people coming back, they're not necessarily coming back in the flesh, but in energetically. Like, I know what I had was a lot of things that would trigger me come back to me, I'm so grateful I did the work because I'm conscious. I'm so grateful that I did the work because I freeze myself. Not a frightened response. It's just, wait a minute. Let's think about this. Okay. Check how you're acting, dude. And I will break it down for myself. I'm just a real small, let's huddle, you know, and we go on because it was just really hard and thick, and some days it would be like more than one, and I thought, oh my gosh, okay, Mercury retrograde's over, but then again, we know that she Mercury fades out when it's going back direct. It kind of whips that tail around at the, you know what I mean? And it sometimes it bites depending on like some, if I've had something that that it wants me to work on, that I'm supposed to work on, and it's bringing it back through the timeline again, and I'm having to like, oh, okay, yeah, I screwed up there. You know what I mean? So sometimes deja vu is you getting a chance to do something over again, or it's the cluster B demon trying to get you to do something over again. This is why, and it's so subtle. They say there's a thin line between love and hate. You know, very thin line, depending on, your emotional intelligence and your awareness too. So it was hard. I made it through. Cool. Okay. So let's get to this, my loves. And it's just another blackout because I want you guys just to focus. And thank you for listening to me. Only went about 6 minutes. Just a brief introduction. My name is Tennille, and I am a transformational and a narc coach. Okay. So I help Black women 30 to 50 who are transitioning in their life, and they want something new. They want to break generational curses. They want to break those toxic patterns and cycles in their life. And, they got out of or they got up from being homeless like myself, or got out of a narcissistic relationship like myself. Whether you were dating them or not. So a relationship is when two people are entangled in some way, is what I should say. And sometimes it can be induced when you're dealing with the cluster B personality. Some of them are not so smooth at manipulation. And so they do the caveman thing and try and knock you over the head and get to you. So I help. No, I don't have the yacht. I don't have the house that I would like right now. I don't have the partnership that I would like right now. I don't have, diamond rings and gold and silver. I do have some precious metals, but I didn't. One of my coaches said, people want to see your wealth, and it's really unfortunate because if you can't see the spiritual growth in me, you can't listen to it and hear it in my podcasts, then how are you going to be able to see it in yourself? So, but I am still here for those who are inspired by my words, by my story, by my triumphs, because believe you me, when I tell you that I am a domestic violence survivor, I am a cluster B survivor, a narcissist survivor, that I am a gang stalker survivor, that I am a survivor of, witches and warlocks trying to literally kill me or sacrifice me, because that's what they do. I really mean it. So that's far more precious than silver and gold, and clearing my bloodlines from generational curses. So if you want to work with me, please get a hold of me. I would love to be your light in the midst of the darkness. I did this by myself with the Most High God and my spirit team that was gradually introduced to me on the streets, and so and here I am. My accomplishment, what I got to show is that they didn't kill me. And I don't care whether you're lesbian, gay, trans woman, bisexual, straight. I just am here to offer a community where we can share our experiences, our strengths, our hope, where I can guide you through. I do have an 8-week program if you want to know about that. The links in the bio. I do also have a workbook that you can purchase at Amazon if you want to just do it by yourself and maybe do an empathic listening call if you need, to be frugal about your finances. I am an empathic listener, and that's, $35, 35 minutes for $40. And, if you want more time, every 30 minutes, I believe is either $20 or another 40. So I'm not sure. It's been a minute since I've looked at it because it was down for a while. It wasn't doing anything for a while. So right now I got it up. So anyway, let us begin. This is called Paranormal Parasites, and the book is by Nick Redfern, and we are on chapter 9, Soul Eaters. And I have made a playlist so it's easy for you guys to get to what it, just this playlist. I also have another one out, but, let's focus on this one. So, Soul Stealers. Pardon me. Ah. Sorry, guys. There can be very few people who are interested in the domain of supernatural who have not heard of the so-called alien abduction phenomena. It's a subject that has captured the attention of not just UFO enthusiasts, but also the mainstream media and the public too. To demonstrate how the subject has become part of the mainstream, one only has to take a look at the story of Whitley Strieber in an 1987 book, Communion. In no time at all, Strieber's book, which told of his very own encounters with abductors that he called the Visitors, became a New York Times bestseller. Such a thing was previously unheard of in the domain of ufology. On top of that, Strieber and his late wife Anne received quite literally hundreds of thousands of letters from the readers of Communion, all wanting to share their own personal stories. Clearly, the phenomenon resonates with people to an extraordinarily high degree. It's hard to say with 100% certainty when the first alien abduction event occurred. Many early encounters may never have been revealed, chiefly due to concerns and fears of ridicule. There is, however, no doubt at all about which case was responsible for bringing the issue to a wide audience. It was a curious affair that occurred on the night of September 19th, 1961, and was chronicled at length in John Fuller's very appropriately titled book from 1966, The Interrupted Journey. The story revolves around a married couple, Barney and Betty Hill, from New Hampshire. They had taken what promised to be a welcoming vacation to Canada. It was. The pair had a great time. One of the highlights was trip to Niagara Falls. It was on the way back home, however, that everything went wrong and their lives rapidly unraveled. Strangers in the night. All was normal until on one particular dark stretch of the road near Lincoln, New Hampshire, the Hills saw something strange in the black skies above them. What it was, Betty and Barney had no idea, but it certainly didn't look like a regular aircraft or helicopter, that's for sure. They were particularly attracted by its shape and the intensity of its lighting as compared to the stars in the sky, reported Major Paul W. Henderson of the U.S. Air Force in an official dossier on the incident dated September 21, 1961, which has been classified under the terms of the U.S. Freedom of Information Act. So amazed by what they were seeing, Betty and Barney stopped their car and they got out to take a closer look at it with Barney's binoculars, which he had fortunately brought along on the vacation. The object, perhaps reacting to the actions of the pair, shot away, performing erratic maneuvers, constantly changing its flight pattern, and even briefly hovering slightly in the sky. Then something even more incredible happened. What happened to be a pair of wings came out of the craft, which gave the vehicle an appearance that was somewhat airplane-like. According to Major Henson in his aforementioned report, the pair saw the craft swoop down in the general direction of their auto. As the UFO closed in, both husband and wife could now hear a curious series of buzzes coming from it. The object soon shot away again, and the Hills, amazed and more than a bit alarmed over what had happened, couldn't do much beyond continue with their drive. Interestingly, although they did not see the craft again, they did hear the odd buzz once more, this time when they were in the area of Ashland, roughly 30 miles from Lincoln. While that, in essence, is what the Hills consciously remembered, there was also the matter of what was deeply buried within the minds of Barry and Barney, which they couldn't remember, at least not consciously. In the days and weeks after the event, both Betty and Barney began to experience traumatic and frightening dreams of not just seeing a UFO, but also of being taken on board and essentially being treated like lab rats. They were subjected to a number of trauma-filled experiments, which included Betty having a needle painfully pushed into her navel. It sounds vaguely like an amniocentesis test, but it was clearly something else, as during an amniocentesis test procedure, the needle is inserted into the wall of the abdomen, finally reaching the amniotic sac. When the nightmares grew ever worse for the Hills and continued for no less than a couple of years, the pair knew that they finally had to do something about it. In so doing, they alerted the world to the alien abduction phenomenon, although that was certainly not their intention. When time vanishes. In December 1963, Barney and Betty decided to consult a Massachusetts-based psychiatrist and neurologist named Benjamin Simon. A wealth of hypnotic sessions soon followed, which showed that the Hills had experienced a significant amount of what in UFO research is known as missing time. Something very strange had taken place on the drive home, something which finally led the Hills to the conclusion that alien entities had wiped their memories clean of what really happened on that dark September night in 1961. Such was the interest in the case, since back then it was largely unique in the field of ufology, which had focused on UFO research rather than abductions since it began in the 1940s. That it led John Fuller to pen The Interrupted Journey. The alien abduction phenomenon was born. It was not only continues to live, it positively thrives, and on a worldwide basis too. Since the now historic encounter of Betty and Barney Hill in September 1961, literally thousands of alien abduction cases have been reported all across the globe. How many cases remain completely unreported for fear of ridicule or being labeled a liar or a crank? It's anyone's guess. There is, however, one aspect of the alien abduction controversy that most assuredly does not get the coverage that it deserves. It is an issue that involves the siphoning and even the ingesting of the human soul by apparently soulless creatures from some other realm of existence. It's an aspect of the UFO phenomena that takes us down an avenue far removed from the conventional image of flying saucers and little green men. Death's Door, a nuclear nightmare. Many UFO researchers are reluctant to address the aliens are eating our souls theory. The fact is, though, that there are far more than a few such reports on record. In fact, it's fair and accurate to say there are an incredible number of such cases. However, the problem is that for so many in ufology, the subject is so troubling and disturbing that they choose to outright ignore it. Before we get to the eating angle, Let's first make a case that there is indeed a connection between the alien abduction issue and the human soul. You may be surprised by the scale of such encounters. On one of the earliest and most intriguing cases on record came from a man named Paul Inglesby. Just 1 year before the Second World War broke out in 1939, Inglesby, who died in 2010, came down with a serious case of malaria. So serious was it that for a while Inglesby perilously hovered in that mysterious domain between life and death. It was while in this limbo state that Inglesby had a frightening dream. Years later, he recalled how it went down. It was an undermined time in the Earth's future, and UFO-like craft were soaring across the fire and smoke-filled skies of our ruined radioactive plant and launching nuclear missiles at our major cities, killing billions and causing planet-wide destruction. The UFOs were not piloted by extraterrestrials, though, but by demonic entities whose goal was to suck out the souls of those killed in the fiery inferno, which was rapidly overwhelming the Earth and just about everything on it. For Inglesby, it was quite literally a wake-up call. The malaria cleared up, Inglesby came out of his unconscious state, and he spent the rest of his life pursuing a career in the church and warning people to avoid the UFO issue. He feared that it would lead people to become ensnared by malevolent demonic monsters, all of which he warned people of in his 1978 book, UFOs and the Christian. Hopefully you guys are taking notes of all the book references in here, because I know I sure do. I think we're property. Go figure. Hold on just a minute. Sorry about that. The unsettling story of Paul Inglesby dates back to the 1930s, but it was in the 1950s that he largely began talking about his nightmare after he realized that what he had been seen back in the 1938 pardon me, were images of nuclear explosions and mushroom clouds, the type that were all too familiar by the 1950s. It's important to note, though, that a connection between UFOs, aliens, and the human soul did not really surface to any kind of meaningful degree until the latter part of the 1980s, which takes us back to the issue of Whitley Strieber's bestseller of 1987, Communion. I think they made a movie out of that. When word of Strieber's planned book first got out, most ufologists assumed that the book, in terms of its content and its theories, would be fairly akin to John Fuller's The Interrupted Journey of 1966 and Bud Hopkins' 1981 book, Missing Time. Both books adhere to the now familiar theory that aliens are stealing our DNA to have their waning species, to save their waning species, well, they are certainly stealing something, but it's not our DNA. Strieber's revelations were in many respects far removed from the writings of Hopkins and Fuller, which is why the book created such a firestorm in locales where ufologists hang out. In Communion, Strieber made it very clear that his own encounters with the visitors and those of others he had spoken to revealed a startling connection between alien abductions and human soul, a paradigm-shifting connection. In his book, Strieber talked about how abductees experienced their souls being dragged from their bodies during abductions. Strieber himself was told by his abductors that they recycled human souls. That sounds quite comforting, as it suggests reincarnation may be a reality, something which will ensure us further lives after this one. But Strieber being told the entire truth by his captors was Strieber. being told the entire truth by his captors? Or was this an attempt on their part to use lies to push things down a different, more appealing path? Stryber said that the more and more he dug into the matter of his encounters, and as he tried to get a handle on what was afoot, he was unable to banish Charles Fort's theories from his mind. For those who may not know, Fort was an acclaimed writer on all manner of paranormal phenomena. His books included Low and Wild Talents. In Stryber's 1988 book Transformation, he specifically quotes Fort's dark suggestion that we, the human race, are animals here for the slaughter and incapable of seeing the greater and more terrible meanings that surround us. As for more of Charles Fort's opinions, they can be read in his classic title from 1919, The Book of the Damned. In it, Fort writes, "I think we're property. I should say we belong to something. That once upon a time this earth was no man's land, and other worlds explored and colonized here, and fought among themselves for possession. But that now it's owned by something. That something owns this earth. All others warned off." I don't know about you guys, Phoenixes, but I have had some thoughts along the same line. Just brief, nothing really deep, just brief. But yeah. Okay, as if I was dead in my bed. Whitley Strieber is not the only writer researcher on the alien abduction issue to have made a deep connection between the phenomena of the human soul. Another was the late Dr. John E. Mack, a Harvard University professor who was killed by a drunk driver in London in 2004. Mack wrote 2 books on the subject, Abduction and Passport to the Cosmos. One of Mack's many patients was a man named Greg. He told Mack of an experience of the abduction type, but not with the typical small, large-headed, black-eyed aliens that have become known as the Greys. No, Greg's encounter was with tall, scaly creatures that resembled the monsters in Universal's classic movie of 1954, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. In UFO terminology, they are known as the reptilians. Greg confided in Mack that he felt the lizard people he encountered were trying to extract his soul from his physical body. Another of Mack's patients, Isabel, spoke of aliens that could fool you into handing over your soul. It's also worth noting the experience of Sergeant John Healy of the U.S. Army Reserve. On the night of October 18, 1973, he encountered a brightly lit UFO as he and his colleagues were on board a UH-1 helicopter, rapidly closing in on Cleveland Hopkins Airport, Ohio. In the aftermath of the encounter, which in essence was a near collision between the two crafts, Healy had several weird out-of-body experiences, which he told UFO investigator Jeannie Zeidman about. It was, he explained, as if he was dead in his bed and his spirit was above him, staring down at his sleeping form in the bed. Sergeant Healy's experiences occurred not in relation to the abduction phenomena, but to a UFO sighting suggests that other components of the UFO issue come into play regarding the relationship between UFOs, life after death, and our souls. Notably, several members of the helicopter crew were later contacted by representatives of the Department of Defense who exhibited interest in and deep concerns about the UFO soul ingestion angle. This suggests a disturbing scenario that certain elements of the U.S. government may know something about the origins and agenda of the paranormal parasites. In fact, as we'll now see, that's exactly how it seems. Uncle Sam may know all about these menacing, energy-eating entities that intrude upon our world. A whistleblower more controversial than Edward Snowden? Yes. Now let's take a look at the incredible story of a man named Robert Scott Lazar, who prefers to go by Bob. For several months in the latter part of 1988, Lazar was employed at the most famous and mysterious U.S. government owned facility of all time, Area 51, which is located in the depths of the Nevada desert. Specifically, Lazar worked in a portion of the facility called S4. The origins of the base date back to the early 1950s when the incredibly well-guarded installation was constructed to oversee the testing of new and radical aircraft. Over the years, the U-2 spy plane, SR-71 Blackbird spy plane, and both the F-1117 Nighthawk stealth fighter and B-2 Spirit stealth bomber were all tested and secretly flown at Area 51. All with practically no one outside of the programs ever having any idea of what was taking place. Area 51 is surely the ultimate modern day fortress. As most people will be aware, Area 51 is more well known for the tales coming out of the base in relation to UFOs and aliens. So the story goes, since the 1950s, Area 51 has been the secret storage area and possibly even the testing area for an untold number of captured or crashed and recovered extraterrestrial aircraft or spacecraft. Some are said to be partially wrecked, and others, we are told, are in near pristine conditions. There is no doubt that without the testimony that surfaced publicly from Lazar in early 1989 when he spoke with George Knapp of Las Vegas KLAS TV, who devoted significant airtime to the records of the controversial whistleblower, Area 51 would still languish in secrecy and obscurity. Unknown to just about one and all, Lazar told Knapp that programs were actively running at Area 51 to try to understand the extraterrestrial technology that was in the hands of the U.S. government's finest and most brilliant scientists. Lazar continued, saying that a small team at the base was trying to duplicate the technology and that incredibly there might have been both dead and living aliens at the base, the latter dwelling deep underground amid a myriad of tunnels and caverns way below the desert environment of Nevada. Although the United States government will not confirm Lazar's claims of alien activity at Area 51, which is not at all surprising, it's most intriguing and telling that the government also refuses to deny the story. Instead, the government has done nothing but offer a stony, awkward silence. Had Lazar concocted the whole thing out of his own mind, one could make a good argument that it would have been very easy for officialdom to quickly bring matters to rest. But 3 decades after Lazar came forward, there is still no denunciation from the government. Sometimes silence speaks volumes, and that may be the case in regard to Lazar and his claims of intensive UFO activity at Area 51. Now let's take a look at what Lazar learned during his brief time at Area 51. Pardon me. In relation to the matter of the human soul, it adds further support to the theory that the government knows or suspects what the soul eaters want from us. In addition, it provides a good, solid reason why the government may be fearful of sharing the terrifying facts with the rest of us. Oh my gosh. Hold on just a minute. We are containers. It's important to note that Bob Lazar was only in the employ of Area 51 for several months. There was a very good reason for that. When he was initially offered the job, Lazar was specifically warned that speaking out of turn on what was afoot at the base would be absolutely unacceptable, possibly even dangerous to his life. Lazar, however, being something of a self-confessed maverick, chose to ignore this direct, stern order. Instead, Lazar quietly told his wife and a good friend named Jean Huff what was going on at Area 51. Aliens, UFOs, the whole show, in fact. When Lazar learned that his phone was being monitored and that his bosses at the base knew he spilled the beans, and as a result were angry in the extreme, he decided never to go back to the base, fearing that if he did, he might not get out alive. Lazar's bones just might have ended up buried somewhere in the Nevada desert. His suspicions might have been right on target. So in essence, it was Lazar himself who terminated his own employment, rather than being terminated in a very different and fatal way. In that roughly 3 months of employment, Lazar learned a great deal, all of it amazing and life-changing. Had he not quit the program out of a deep concern for his safety, Lazar would likely have learned even more. According to the man himself, he was briefed on the long and winding history of the alien presence of Earth. He was told that the aliens were responsible for the creation and development of all of the world's major religions, and that the extraterrestrial creatures came from a faraway star system. More controversially, the aliens had supposedly genetically altered various kinds of humans, such as the Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons, into what we, Homo sapiens, are today. None of this, Lazar was told, could ever be shared with the public due to the catastrophic effect it would have on the world of religion and the stability of human civilization. It was the staff at Area 51 said, just too difficult and dangerous a story to share. Risking worldwide shock and even the collapse of civilization was simply not in the cards. So the keepers of the secret of Area 51 chose to tell no one outside of the program, ever. There was something else, too, that Lazar learned from the top secret briefing papers showed to him at Area 51. In fact, it was probably the most controversial aspect of his entire story. Of all the various revelations that Lazar made, the one more than any other that disturbed and troubled him was in regard to the human soul. The government was hiding out at Area 51, something that amounted to just about the big secret of all. Lazar learned that the aliens supposedly refer to us, the human race, as containers. Containers of what? Containers of souls, that's what. On this issue, Lazar told George Knapp on Las Vegas's KLAS TV in 1989 that religion was created so we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the containers. Ha! George Knapp was not the only person who Bob Lazar spoke to on this issue of containers. Michael Lindman is the editor of a 1995 book, UFOs and the Alien Presence. He also questioned Lazar on his controversy. Lazar added a bit more to the story when speaking with Lindman, as the latter acknowledged in his book. He noted that Lazar said the containers were extremely, extremely unique, that they were very difficult to find, and that the biggest secret of all revolved around our souls. No wonder that the people in the know at Area 51 didn't know how to tell the rest of the world that they were forced to sit on, out of fear of worldwide anarchy breaking out if it was revealed that religion was created of ancient extraterrestrials who devour our souls. But what is it that is so important about the human soul, and how does it come into play with the story that this book tells? Let's see. Fauzian, Pax, and the Matrix. Ray Boucher is both a priest and a UFO researcher who believes that the UFO phenomena is demonic rather than extraterrestrial in nature. In November 1991, Boucher met with two Department of Defense physicists who were playing a dangerous game, an incredibly dangerous game. They were part of a top secret program working out of the Pentagon, which was focused on contacting what they were referred to by the group as non-human entities, or NHES, or NHES. NHEs. Thank you. Sorry, guys. The plan was for the U.S. government to try to take what he might call a deal with the NHEs to specifically try to understand, replicate, and then weaponize the supernatural powers of the demonic NHEs. Of course, the whole plan went totally awry, as Faustian pacts always do. There were deaths on the program, runs of bad luck, and a sense that the group had somehow been cursed, where was probably right on target. The two officials that Boucher met with wanted his guidance as a prominent figure in the church, and also as someone who well affiliated with the UFO phenomenon, on what they should do next. Not surprising, Boucher said that nothing good or positive could come from engaging the NHEs. They should be completely avoided at all costs, he said. The two men thanked him and went on their way. Boucher had a couple of more communications with them, after which there was nothing but a stony silence. The group still exists, though. Thanks to Ray Boucher sharing his story with me in January 2007, I was able to meet with a small number of those who were still working on the program. One of the many things I was told by the group members very much ties in with what Bob Lazar talked about, as well as the observations of Professor John E. Mack, Pauli Inglesby, and Whitley Strieber, namely that the human soul was at the heart of the UFO presence on Earth. They believe that this was all a distortion of the reality, which was very different from the conventional story of hell, the devil, and his minions. The program concluded something that is all but guaranteed to give each and every one of us nightmares, that the human soul is, in essence, a form of supernatural energy, yes, a form of energy that the NHEs digest rather than torment at the will of the devil. The bleak conclusion of those in the know in the Pentagon was that our souls are the food of the NHEs. This, you will recall, harks back to the comments of both Whitley Strieber and Charles Fort, who drew parallels between the earth and a farm, with us as the cattle caught in the middle. It's a story not unlike that presented in the 1999 movie The Matrix. In the film, the human race is nothing more but a source of fuel for highly advanced machines that thrive on electrical energy, while we all unknowingly live in a dream world born out of a sophisticated hologram. The Matrix of the movie's title. Our lives are one big collective nightmare, while the reality is the hellish Matrix. Just perhaps the fiction of the Matrix is not as far removed from the truth as many might suspect it to be. We'll close this chapter with the words of a man, Nigel Kerner, who has put together a persuasive argument that it is the human soul which obsessively attracts the grays of alien abduction lore to us. Kerner has written 2 books on this topic: The Song of the Greys, which was published in 1997, and 2010's Gray Aliens and the Harvest of Souls. Kerner concludes that essentially the Greys are biological robots, created entities that lack the thing we all have, a soul. For that reason, they are determined to make use of the human soul in which the same way we do as a vessel to ensure that they live on after physical bodily death. Kerner says on his website, these entities are attempting to piggyback our facility as human beings. For eternal existence, hence their apparent fascination with the human reproductive capacity. In that sense, the agenda of the Greys may be twofold: to harness the human soul for immortality, but also to use it as a source of energy. Either way or both ways, it's fair to say we're screwed. Okay, so I'm done. I haven't. It's been a trying week. So, but that was, oh, phew, awesome. The chapter 10, page 86 is aliens and abductions. So, one thing that I've noticed, this is a beautiful read. One thing that I've noticed with Nick Redfern in this book and reading it is that he was slow to talk about the energy, and I'm picking up on a line like there's something that he wants us to get, and it is devastating. But when he said we talked about the matrix and the harvesting of souls, and I know for many of us who are highly electric, okay, we're highly intuitive, and we're high, we're very high, that there's always, and I was seeing this pattern, and we are hard to find because there is something else cloaking us. So there is something that's protecting us, and there's something that is and they're cloaking us. And so when we so they're working, it would seem to me, and the evil that I have experienced in the last 20 years. Like I have never, it started in pretty much 2005 for me. My grand awakening was, I mean, it took that long. And, I mean, there was a process and there was a reason. But one thing that has always, it's like they're everywhere. Almost like spies. Like I have at my apartment complex all the rest of when you're dealing with narcissism, and these are narcissists because they, as defined by us or defined by whoever, came up with this cluster B personalities, and why they're so hard to deal with, because they're character disturbed. So you're dealing with people who are what they are, and that's all that they're going to be, and they just want you to accept it. But yet we cannot accept somebody trying to murder us. Like one of my stalkers tried to have me run over not once but twice. The second time almost got me. If one of my pitties at the time, Lala, who was rescued from being SA'd, and if she wouldn't have turned around and looked back, I wouldn't be here today. It would have been a wrap. Prosperity wouldn't have been here. My other fur baby wouldn't have been here. Hazel wouldn't have been here. We would be dead. Lala wouldn't even have been here. But she looked behind her, and there was nothing but probably an angel that was like, hey, come on. So, and it's been this, I've been communing with the Most High God, and in prayer and meditation, and it's just like, okay, what is this? Why is it, like, for instance, when we leave a narcissist and they continue to hoover, and they have flying monkeys, while they're hoovering and trying to re-love bomb us, they got flying monkeys that are trying to hurt us, right? And, bully us and get us into fear. So they're working both angles here, right? Which causes kind of this confusion and this overload to our senses. And they're looking for an opening. And I asked the Most High God because of, I was starting to say, I got this, the security guard, and I do security, and I've done it for a minute now. And you just do your job and you shut up. But one thing that I notice, and this is culturally too, with different cultures, they believe that they have different rights and they're not going to change it. It doesn't matter if they live in America or not. So basically, it does not matter what an American says. They're going to do whatever they want, because In my country, we don't treat women with respect. We own them. And this happens to be a female too, though. So this person has, and with every cluster B, they always go because the way that they groom is akin to a pedophile. And so they're always looking for prime real estate. Like as a crafter, you want to have the most traffic and the most lucrative area, affluent area, and just so you can sell your goods. And so that's how cluster Bs are. And so sometimes they get involved in situations and areas and certain locations because why? It may be a crappy location, but the people there are easy to handle and manage. Now, when somebody like us comes in, we're not we can see right through them and that burns them. It doesn't mean, so people don't understand, seeing right through somebody does not mean that you're going to do anything about it. It just means that you're taking note for yourself. But I know for the security guard, there was nothing else that has ever happened. And she acts weird, towards me, and she's come to my site, which is way out of the way of where the apartment is. And I'm like, how did you know you know what I mean? Where I was going. And it's been weird. And I don't talk about it because I'm not going to give it any power. There was one time where I got really upset and I thought that I was going to have to take it to the next stage, the next level. Because I'm not going to allow somebody to stalk me anymore. Right? These last people, it's limerence, they're lingering. But they can't touch, and that's fine. But I'm not getting anybody new. And as I've said before, Phoenix, as it's like sometimes, you're not attracting narcissists, but they're collective. They are the Borg. So when one doesn't succeed, others are going to attempt because they want the status of it. We're dealing with the spiritual kingdom. So whatever, they got going on up there, you notice how they won't bother each other. They may become jealous of each other, and then that's kind of comical to watch, but they'll try and do it in silence, not in front of the food, so to speak. But yeah, so this, so it's and when I saw her in the spiritual realm, she reminded me of the succubus. So she is this type of succubus that I've never seen before because there's different varieties of succubuses and incubuses. And this one is she just likes the attention. So she's an attention whore. And I mean that, like she wants attention all the time. And she has to be the center of attention. When she's on site, it's like everybody literally will walk on eggshells around her. And she has people doing her bidding, and it's bizarre. So I'm thinking about, after reading this chapter, Soul Eaters, because when I saw her in the spiritual realm, it's a reptile, like she's a snake. Literal snake. And she was slithering around. She was energetically shutting off my key card. And I said, hey, my key card keeps going off. And it's like, because I'd had that happen at the Motel 6. And so I was like, okay, maybe this is the same thing. I don't care about what people think about me. I know that, people are going to call you crazy and try and feel sorry for you and stuff like that. That's exactly what happened. I blew it off. If you want to, it's not my problem. It's other people's problems, how they see me. It's not how I see myself, because I know what I've been through. And I know what I've witnessed in the spiritual realms. And I know that these guys would die. They would have already been dead. They would not have survived 8 years. So, and 5 years, recently. So, yeah, so that stopped because, he found out whatever it was. So the manager found out. But after talking to him, it was weird because this demonic entity in the spiritual realm, mind you, I'm literally seeing this. It's like almost like a vision opens up in front of your eyes, but it's trying to include you as one of the props. If that makes sense, like like it's trying to make you a participant. So in my spiritual eyes, I saw this reptile-ish thing that like a snake, had that body wrapping around, but it almost had like a like a like a fin or something on it, and was turning around, kind of twisting, trying to twist within me, trying to bind up in me. And so I saw it. It actually was going for my sacral. And I've had to remove it. This is why you clear your chakra. I know that there are people going around saying you don't have to clear your chakra if you can raise your vibration. You stupid, stupid people who are saying this. You wouldn't have to clear your chakra if you could naturally raise your vibration without somebody siphoning it. When you are around lower vibratory people, that means those parasites have gotten stronger, because I feel it. I get weighed down because they're trying to attack me. When you are a high producer, they want to be around you. You notice how nobody really talks to you, right? They keep you going. They sustain you until the night's over and they got to go home, and now they're filled until they run out again. Then they'll come back to you and they'll do the same thing over and again. And in the physical world, you can't say anything. And if you start talking about them being demons from the spiritual perspective, they're gonna use the physical world against you, right? So they've created that trap. So this is not far-fetched to me, because they're manipulators. They got to manipulate to keep you coming back, to keep you producing until you can't produce anymore. And I remembered having a dream, and something, I woke up and something said 65. And I think somebody was trying to get me to wait until 65 to do what I wanted to do for my life, to be in my purpose. And I was like, no, are you fucking kidding me? Excuse my language, but no. To the fuck no. But somebody was trying to dictate and use my mind and my memories. So if people are coming in, because I've had a lot of people try and mind fuck me because they couldn't do it physically, and and they couldn't mind fuck me while I'm awake, right? But then they found out really quick, this is the benefit of fasting, this is the benefit of chanting mantra and having a sharp mind. Because it produces a sharp mind, it produces clarity all the way into your etheric body and all your light bodies. And so when you are resting, when you fall asleep and you go into that different dream, that different world, you can still protect yourself. I was kicking their asses in the world. It was even worse. Because when these guys really felt like, oh shit, if we're coming, I had witches and warlocks, and when I moved to the new place, when I left Sacramento and we came to the new place, I was like, oh my God, I recognize this woman. I said, she is from my dream. She is a witch from my dream. You see? So and they were trying to literally, I believe the soul thing. I believe the soul snatching thing. But anyway, so hopefully you guys are enjoying this, because I certainly am. Sorry it's taken me so long to get back and reading again. But we're almost done. Page 86 out of 162. We're in chapter 10, Aliens and Abductions. I love you, Phoenixes, and I thank you guys for all your support of my channel, because I am being grossly shadow banned, because somebody doesn't want me to be in my purpose. And I so appreciate you guys for liking, subscribing, and ringing the bell, because there's more to come. Also, if you've got TikTok or Instagram, well, just do the TikTok, because I also have a backup channel, but I'm posting more on there now, and I'm just using this to read. So hopefully, I know I kept talking about revamping and rebranding and stuff like that, and kind of taking a break. And unfortunately, the entities don't want to let go, and I know that a lot of us are still kind of going through it, but we're coming out of it. So hang on there. October and November are going to be better energetically, but I know that they're creating dust with all this other stuff. So just keep focused, keep your faith, keep on your purpose. It doesn't matter if you got to sit on the pot and in between, read something, do something, post something, just keep being active, all right? Your blessings are in your ashes, phoenixes. Rise. What is that?